Henry Wynne. We're not talking a lot about Henry Wynne. We're talking about a lot about Hobbs Kessler, who finished behind him for obvious reasons because he smashed the high school record. We're obviously talking about Craig Engels, who won because we're looking at a 333 and we're looking at a guy who's won a U.S. title. But we're not talking, especially in the U.S. I know that Charlie Grice was second, Jake Haber was third. We're not talking a lot about Henry Wynne getting a 334, getting the standard knocked out, and him potentially being a wild card to make the team. Now, I know it's a 1500. I know the times are not predictive of how you're going to perform when it comes to Olympic trials through the rounds. But if we're saying that, Kessler's got a shot and Kessler's going to make the final, we at least have to afford that same sort of benefit, I think, to Henry Wynne, who has obviously more experience than Kessler, ran a little bit quicker than him, former NCAA champ himself. I'm not saying he's going to make the team, but I'm saying his performance was a bit overlooked. And I think we need to, look at scroll down, look at the people he beat from the U.S. Sietti also underrated performance, but, he beat Josh Thompson in this race, right? He beat Eric Avila. Those are people who we think could factor in to the qualification picture, or at least you'd say, okay, that's a top 6, 7 type of guy. And I think Wynne's in that group now.
Yeah, the US 1500 always has 1 to 3 solid performers that just aren't given the spotlight, mainly because they're not either winning big races like a Craig Engels or Centro does, or they're not that up and coming impressive young star like a Drew Hunter, Hobbs Kessler, insert, your college kid who's running well. And they kind of
Right.
just blend in. It's the curse of being the 336 forever type guy, like the Sam Prakels, the Johnny Gregorics, Henry Wynnes. They're good, they can make finals, but no one's ever going to pick them to be top 3. Everyone's like, yeah, they're top 8. They're it's like the Robert Brandt of 1500, right? And I think it's mainly because they just don't have a lot of dominant wins, right? When you're really good at getting 4th in races or just in the mix in races, it's kind of hard to stand out. The way you stand out in our sport is running fast, young, and winning. That's the 2 main things, right? And so,
yeah, you'd also
would you
get
agree
more
or disagree?
people. No, I agree. I also think you get more attention if you win and then finish 8th as opposed to getting 4th and 4th. Because you look at Wynne's, look at his performance at Mount Sac. In retrospect, looks pretty good, right? Hoare and Knight obviously do their thing and run 333, but Wynne was 3rd in that race, obviously top American. So he wins that second group, which is not insignificant, beats Gregoric, Prakel, Avila, Engels, and Mohamed in that race. I think he's one of those guys where if he ends up sneaking on the team, we're going to go back and we're going to look and we're like, wait, why didn't we see this? Why didn't we talk more about it? He was really solid at Portland Track Festival. He was really solid at Mount Sac. But you get drawn to, you remember the people who win. You don't remember the people who finish 3rd or 4th, but 3rd gets you on the team. And everybody says, as the cliche goes, 3rd is as good as 1st when it comes to the Olympic trials. So, his teammate, David Ribich, says, quit sleeping on this man. I am done sleeping. I've woken up to Henry Wynne. I think he's got a chance. It's just hard. You're right. The attention is going to go to Centro for good reasons, to Engels for good reasons. It's going to go to the younger guys like Hawker, like Nagus, like Kessler. If you're listing all the stories in this event, there's so many people that are going to get attention ahead of him or ahead of someone like Sietti. But from a practical perspective, heck, they have the standard. Now they can run completely unburdened by the pressure of trying to run quick, knowing all they got to do is figure out how to get top 3. So he jumped out at me to me as someone who was definitely underrated coming out this weekend.
Yeah, I agree with it. I think he's going to be the same way Johnny Gregoric made the team in 2017. Remember that? Was it 2017 he made the team?
Right.
People kind of were always all overlooking Johnny during that time, right? And then he makes a team. I think it's one of those things where it's like this in all sports. You're always going to be overlooked until you're not overlooked anymore, right? When you actually like break through. And it's in this in basketball where everyone is going to pick, Brooklyn Lakers to make the finals because they're always going to see like, well, LeBron always makes it. Brooklyn has the stars we know. Like no one is ever going to pick the new person to break through, right? Until they break it. So like if the Utah Jazz or Sixers were to win this year, then for the next 3 years, everyone will start picking them because they now are broken through. And if Henry Wynne were to make the team this year, then for the next like 3 years, he's going to be like Henry Wynne. He'll be looked at in the same eyes as like a Craig Engels. So it's one of those things where you're just not given the benefit of the doubt until you have that like marquee win or qualification. So
Yeah. Well, I think that's just the nature of sports, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many people who fit into that second category and so few people and teams that fit into that first category who have done it and are proven champions. But I just think it's a whole different ball game. Like that race changed everything because going into the trials as a 336 person versus a 334 person just changes it, or a 335.1 person. And I know the world rankings and might have been able to get in all that other stuff. It's just it changes things in my estimation. So that men's 1500 is shaping up to be pretty good. Women's mid